Aquaba, welcome to this week's edition of Ghana in Focus with myself, Kwame, Ghanaian writer, broadcaster, journalist, historian, entrepreneur. And this week's edition of Ghana in Focus is a special Why Ghanaians Are Slaves in Their Own Country, Independence Special. All right, so that's the theme for this week's show. Independence Special, Why Ghanaians Are Slaves in Their Own Country. So before we start the podcast, if you like what you hear, please share to your friends, family, social media networks, subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube, hit notification bell, and YouTube will notify you every time we download a new podcast. All right, similarly, we're on Spotify. Look out for Ghana African Focus on Spotify. Hit the follow button, and that will ensure that every time we upload a new podcast on Spotify, you'll be notified by Spotify. And we're also on all the major podcast platforms, including iTunes, TuneIn, what have you, okay? So if you get your podcasts, just look out for Ghana African Focus. Okay, and if you'd like to donate to the show to help us to continue to bring fantastic content from Ghana, from the African content, you can subscribe to Ghana African Focus for as little as $3 a month. You can either do it as a monthly basis or just a one-off payment. All right, so if you want to donate, I'll leave you the donate link on the front next to the show. And don't forget, like I said, Expat Love Ghana are going to be hosting a Ghana Relocation Summit taking place at the African Regional Hotel in Accra on April 1, April 2. So you've got just about a month to get yourself sorted out for that. And you can register your interest to either go there in person, to go to Accra in person, or you can attend virtually. So I will leave you the link to the summit in the front to a show. Very, very important summit, particularly if you are interested in relocating to Ghana, because at this conference you'll get, a very, very interesting, how can I put it, an interesting mix of real estate developers, bankers, government agencies, government politicians, etc., even business owners, about telling you about the opportunities that there are in Ghana, how to relocate to Ghana, and how to open a bank account, etc. So, if you are interested in relocating to Ghana, then this is a summit you must attend, either virtually or in person. And like I said, I'll leave you the link to the summit in the front notes, or you can just go on Expat Live Ghana. You just search for that on YouTube or Google it, and you'll get all the details there that you need to register. All right, so let's get into the summit, or let's get into a podcast rather. Independence Special, Why Ghanaians Are Slaves in Their Own Country. Now, this may be hard to take, but the truth is, and I'll break this down over the this podcast, Ghanaians are slaves in their own country despite so-called independence. So, on the 6th of March, Ghana will be 68 years old. No, 59, 57. So that's 69 years old. So next year, Ghana will be 70 years old. So 69 years old, Ghana will be celebrating its independence, so-called. You may raise a flag, you may sing the anthem, you may shout freedom, but when the sun rises the next day, the mines are not ours, the banks are not ours, the supermarkets are not ours, the telecoms are not ours. So the question is, whose independence, are we Ghanaians really celebrating, That's what I want Ghanaians and non-Ghanaians to think about when we reflect on the 6th of March, so-called Independence Day. Whose independence are we celebrating? Because like I said before, Ghana is not an independent country, So, let me tell you why, Ghanaians are slaves of their own country. This is not emotional exaggeration, it is structural. Yeah. So let me give you the 4 pillars, right, of economic control. These are ownership. So ask yourselves, particularly those of you who are in Ghana, because I know many of you Ghanaians listen to my show and you subscribe to the show. So ask yourself, who owns the big companies in Ghana? Yeah, like the banking companies, the mining companies, retail, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Yeah, labor, who earns wages versus who earns the profits. Value addition, who possesses the raw materials. And finally, capital flight, who makes or who takes the money home. So these are the 4 pillars of economic control. And the reality is why we don't have none of them, but let me get into that now. So Ghanaians overwhelmingly provide labor and cheap labor at that. And again, I come on to that in a minute. So you provide labor, not ownership. Foreign companies overwhelmingly control capital, profits, and value chains. Yeah. So this is the form or modern form of dependency Nkrumah warns about called neocolonialism. And again, I would advise you to get Nkrumah's book and read it properly. Understand, underscore what Nkrumah said in that classic book, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, because we are living in that right now in Ghana today. And so I'm going to break down for you the nations and ethnic groups that control Ghana's key sectors of the economy, and you would understand after this why Ghanaians are slaves in their own country. Now check this now. The mining sector, i.e. gold, bauxite, manganese, lithium, right, are dominated by white South African companies, i.e. Anglo Ashanti, Canadian companies, i.e. Newmont Ghana, Australian companies, Redback Mining, and also the company that got the contract for the lithium, yeah, that's an Australian company, and then Chinese companies who are mainly involved in this illegal small-scale mining. Now, within the mining context, Ghanaian ownership is very, very minimal. Yeah, we don't own the big mining companies, whether it's gold, lithium, manganese, bauxite. We don't own them. Yeah, I think Ibrahim Mahama has a company, but very small compared to before that I've just mentioned. Your South African companies, Canadian companies, etc. Ghanaian ownership is minimal. Oil and gas. Yeah. Now this sector is dominated by American multinationals, i.e. Cosmos Energy and others, British companies like Shell, and then Italian companies like ENI, Norwegian companies, and then Russian interests, which is in the form of some subcontracting. Ghana's share within the oil and gas sector is very, very small compared to foreign operators. Yeah. Again, when we look at telecoms, another key aspect of the Ghanaian economy, dominated by South African, white. And when we talk about South African, we talk about white South Africa, because white people in South Africa control the economy of that country, not black people. You may have an African or Africans there as a CEO or director of the company, but the main shareholders are white people. So South Africa, or rather MTN, which is the biggest player in the telecommunications sector in Ghana, I think has about an 85% share of the market in Ghana, MTN. That is wholly owned by white South Africa. And most of the shareholders are white South Africans. Yeah. Again, what was called Vodafone, now Telecel, is a British stroke German company. Yeah. So these two companies particularly, I mean, these are two big boys, MTN and Vodafone. You also got Airtel, I think Airtel, Tigo, or whatever it's called, yeah? Now these companies, yeah, in the telecommunication sector, They control data. So the data that you Ghanaians use, who are listening to this podcast, data that you use is controlled by them, not by Ghanaian company. Yeah. The mobile money, Momo, yeah, that at least 80% of Ghanaians have member account. That mobile money is controlled predominantly by MTN. The infrastructure, i.e. the fiber optic cables, that is used to give us data in Ghana, that's not owned by Ghana or by Ghanaians. And the data revenue that comes from your Momo, that comes from the using data, is not controlled by Ghanaians, controlled by Britain and South Africa, or white South Africa. Again, we look at the banking and finance sector in Ghana, dominated by Nigerian banks. That's fine, because they're African. So Nigerian, GT Bank, Access, Zenith Bank, UBA, all Nigerian banks. Yeah, Stanbic is a big player in Ghana. That is owned by white South Africa, not African people in South Africa, white South Africa. So when we talk about South Africa, right, that's the case for white people, yeah? You got British banks like Standard Chartered and Absa, formerly known as Barclays. And also you got Lebanese capital, yeah, in some institutions within the banking sector. Ghanaian banks exist, i.e. like Fidelity and like Ghana Commercial Bank, but they do not dominate the sector like these big boys do. Again, we look at retail and supermarkets, yeah, dominated by Lebanese families, i.e. ShopRite, sorry, not ShopRite, Max Mart is owned by a Lebanese family. That's a big shopping center, particularly within Accra. You've also got, Koala. That's also a popular supermarket in Accra. That's run by Lebanese. Yeah. If you look at Malcolm, that's owned by Indian family. Malcolm, that is the biggest retail chain in Ghana, Malcolm. And their slogan is "Where Ghana shops." Yeah, because many Ghanaians shop at Malcolm. Malcolm is not a Ghanaian company. It's owned by an Indian family called, I think, the Kolawandi family. You can Google that. Just put in a Google search engine, the Indian owner of Malcolm. You got Chinese wholesalers. So you got China Mall. China Mall now begin to operate in the main cities of Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi. Yeah. And then you've also got South African retail chains. And like I said, South African is code for white. So ShopRite, Game, obviously, I think Game have left Ghana, but ShopRite is still in Ghana. Yeah. They own, ShopRite. And then look at the other shopping malls, particularly in Accra. Accra Mall is not owned by Ghanaians. Yeah. Palace Mall is not owned by Ghanaians. Achamata Mall is not owned by Ghanaians. Yeah. All the major shopping malls are not owned by Ghanaians. The only shopping mall in Ghana, yeah, one in Kumasi called Opoku Trading. That's owned by Ghanaian. That's one of the biggest in Kumasi. And then in Accra, the only Ghanaian owned shopping mall is the A and C shopping mall. That's in East Legon in Accra. And if you're listening to the show, going to Ghana, I would implore that you support A and C shopping mall, because that is a wholly indigenous Ghanaian company. And when you shop there, particularly within their compartments, yeah, that money is going back to Ghana, because that money that is earned by ANC Mall, unlike Koala, unlike ShopRite, unlike Accra Mall, unlike Max Mart, that money stays in Ghana. So each time you shop at ANC Mall, that money stays in Ghana, because that shopping mall is owned by a Ghanaian family. Yeah. So that's the only mall, ANC Mall, East Legon. Again, you can Google that. That's the only shopping mall that is owned by Ghanaians. So apart from ANC Mall, these other groups, they control import channels, pricing and distribution. Again, putting the Ghanaians out of the game. All that we got in Ghana in terms of Ghanaians in concern is a little kiosk, and even the items that they sell is controlled by the very same Lebanese, Indian, and Chinese wholesalers. Yeah, so it tells that in terms of retail and supermarkets, we are hardly in the game. Now, if you look at again, construction real estate, no Ghanaian company is involved there. So this sector of the Ghanaian economy, a very, very important sector of the Ghanaian economy, is dominated by Chinese construction firms. Yeah, Lebanese real estate developers, i.e., the Lebanese people, they own Lakeside Estate, the same by Lebanese company. And there's also another one called it's at not Pukwa, c'est Pantang. There's a big estate near Pantang. That's owned by Lebanese. Yeah, you got Turkish contractors operating in Ghana. You got Italian constructors. Those Villaggio, right? That's owned by an Italian company, and Trasaco, owned by an Italian family firm. And also you got Indian contractors also operating within the real estate industry in Ghana. Ghanaian firms often get subcontracted, never the main contracts. The main contracts get to non-Ghanaian developers. Again, look at manufacturing sector. Yeah, dominated by Indian, Lebanese, Chinese families, and also European brands. Ghanaian manufacturing is very, very small and undercapitalized. Again, we look at the cocoa value chain. Cocoa is one of Ghana's main exports, but we don't profit from it. Yeah. So the Ghanaian cocoa value chain, dominated by Swiss companies, obviously Nestle, they have an office in Ghana. The Dutch companies, yeah, and also American and British chocolate multinationals, like those who make Snickers, those who make the Cadbury's chocolate, etc. Yeah. Ghana grows the cocoa, but does not control the chocolate industry, of which the chocolate industry worldwide is estimated at least $100 billion. Ghana, being the second biggest producer of cocoa, which is the main ingredient in chocolate, Ghana gets less than 3 billion out of the 100 billion made a year in chocolate sales. Yeah? So it tells that Ghana may grow the cocoa, but hell no, we do not control the chocolate global industry. So I've told you about the key sectors and industries in Ghana that are dominated by non-Ghanaians. So this is why, yeah, Ghanaians are citizens in their own countries, because they work in an economy that they do not own. So Ghanaians work for the banks, the telecommunication companies, the real estate companies, your artisan laborers, etc. Our farmers, in the hot sun, cultivate the cocoa, and it's the cocoa season right now in Ghana. And we know the cocoa sector is in crisis because MPP left in crisis, but that's for another time. Yeah, we know there's people that work in the retail sector. They work for the people that own Melcom, Maxmart, Koala, Channel Mall, Hypermall, etc. However, Ghanaians work in an economy that they do not own, let alone control. That is a form of modern day slavery. Yeah, and also they earn wages, not profits. And most of these companies, pay minimum wage. Today in Ghana, the minimum wage in Ghana, as of March 2025, is 19, let's call it 20 cedis a day, 20 cedis a day, which is a month, is about 600 cedis a month. So divide 600 cedis by 10, right? That tells that the minimum wage in Ghana is roughly $60 a month, $60. What is that? Can any of you listeners live on $60 a month? I don't think so, beloved. You can't. That's not even a week shopping. particularly for a family of four, nowhere near. But yet this is the money that many of these companies that I've mentioned to you operate in Ghana. This is the minimum that they pay. Maybe you may be a supervisor and maybe get about 3 to 4,000 to 5,000 cedis a month, right? And even when you divide 5,000 cedis by 10 cedis to $1, that is $500 a month. How many of you can live on $500? That can't even pay your rent in Ghana, yeah? So, minimum wage or wages in Ghana are very, very low, yeah? Because the government has allowed, because of so-called foreign direct investment, right? The government has allowed these foreign companies, and even the ones that have been in Ghana 40, 50 years, like Koala, like your Maxima, like your Melcom, they have allowed the community to prevail, whereby these people pay minimum wage, yeah, which is 600 cedis a month, or $60 a month. Like I said, if you're lucky, you may get 3,000 to 5,000 cedis a month, which is 300 to $500 a month. What is that to live on? Particularly if you've got a wife who's probably working part-time, and you've got a couple of children who are in school in Ghana, and you've got to pay your rent, Medicare, and that kind of thing. 5,000 cedis is nothing, let alone, the minimum wage of 600 cedis a month that most Ghanaians get. So this is the slave wages that many, many Ghanaians are getting, yeah? And now the profits that people like Max Mart, Koala, China Mall, Palace Mall, Malcolm, the massive profits that they make go out of Ghana, what that we call capital flight, yeah? So even though, for example, the family that owns Malcolm, they've been in Ghana for 40, 50 years, right? They still send a lot of the money back to India. Yeah, that goes back to develop the Indian economy. Yeah, the profit the margins that stay in Ghana are very, very minimal. Yeah, so we earn wages but not profit. The profits are earned by non-Ghanaians. So Ghanaians consume imports, not local production. As I mentioned in another podcast, right? The totality of Ghana's economy is import-led. Under Nkrumah and Achampong, it was the other way around, export-led. But this is Achampong, right? All the other Ghanaian so-called leaders, yeah, including Mahama, have allowed Ghana to consume imports rather than making what we eat, making what we drink, making what we consume. To the extent that now today, Ghana imports everything, even toothpick and toothpaste and toilet roll that we can make in Ghana, we import. Yeah? So because of this, right, Ghanaians cannot accumulate capital because we consume, not produce. Yeah? And because of this, right, the older Ghanaians or Ghanaians generally, we cannot influence economic policy. Economic policy favors the so-called foreign direct investment. And a classic example is two-pronged. One, under Akufo-Addo, the one factory, one district, one factory, right? Akufo-Addo was not quoting Ghanaians, learning Africans, right? He was quoting Indian, Chinese, European, and Arab business people. Likewise, with John Mahama's 24-hour economy, the factories, etc., that he wants to be built in Ghana, he's not quoting, African Americans or rich Africans like Dangote or even in Ghana, people like Parkway Syndrome. No, he is quoting Japanese. I told you when he went to Japan, yeah, to quote the Japanese business people. He's been in China recently, yeah. He's also been around to Europe. So he's not interested, sad to say, in allowing Ghanaian companies to have the piece of the pie, have a big piece of the pie. He's courting so-called foreign direct investment, yeah? And as such, economic policy is skewed towards so-called foreign direct investment, FDI. So this allows then to Ghana to depend on foreign companies for jobs, food, fuel, and technology. This is again the exact system that Kwame Nkrumah warned about in neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. This is why I'm saying you need to get that book, read the book, get the book, understand what Nkrumah meant by neo-colonialism. Yeah, well, this is what Ghana has been living in since their champion time. Yeah, so Ghana was neo-colonial under Rawlings for 20 years, under Kufuor for 8 years, under Atta Mills and Mahama, yeah, under Akufo-Addo 8 years, and now under Mahama. Mahama's trying to change things, right? But let's see how it does, yeah. But Mahama part 1, he was a neo-colonialist. Let's see what Mahama point 2 brings us, 2.0 brings us. So this is a state that Ghana is in, a import-based, import-led economy whose export is not even owned by Ghanaians. I'm about indigenous Ghanaians. Ghanaians, black skin. I don't care if you're Indian, been in Ghana 100 years. You're not African, you're not Ghanaian because you're Indian. You have your language, your culture, your religion, your culture. You get me? So you're not Ghanaian. Lebanese, been in Ghana 50 years. You're Lebanese, not Ghanaian. You may speak Twi or Ga, but that doesn't make you Ghanaian because you're not an Akan, Ewe, Fante, Inzema, Krobo, Guan, Ga, Adangbe, etc. You're Lebanese. Yeah? So we Ghanaians are slaves in our own country. We have become slaves in our own country because the leadership has not sought, like Nkrumah, like a Champong, to control the economy of Ghana and make it the acquiesce of Ghanaians only. They've allowed this foreign direct investment, i.e. the World Bank and the IMF, right, to liberalize Ghana's economy, and this is the result of it, that you are enslaved, you are a slave in your own country. Because you've allowed foreigners, non-Africans, yeah, non-blacks, to own and control your economy. And as Malcolm X said, if you don't own and control your economy, you're a dead nation. You're not a nation, beloved. And so, what must be done? What should be done? What must be done, yeah, to counteract the fact that Ghanaians are slaves in their own country? Let me give you some solutions now. Solutions based now, right? So the government must help to build Ghanaian ownership of capital. Yeah. So we need a national development bank, and I believe something that Mahama is thinking about. We need also diaspora investment in vehicles, like I mentioned about the gold. You know, why we must get 50% gold royalties. That will enable us to get instruments whereby even those Ghanaians in the West can invest in. So like diaspora bond, like diaspora sovereign wealth fund, like a diaspora, gold, gold shilling, etc., etc. These are investment vehicles that can bring back to the Ghanaian ownership of the capital. Yeah. Again, as Ghanaians, we should look at cooperative models, cooperative ownership models, whereby families, whether if Akan families get together, or Ewe families come together, or Ghan families come together, or Fante families come together and put their money in a cooperative, yeah, where they can trust a family or family member to run that cooperative and to oversee that cooperative that can generate funds that can be used to build businesses. This is what the Sikh community in Ghana do. This is why they can build that massive Sikh Gurdwara, East Legon, because the Sikh people didn't get money from the Ghanaian government. They didn't get the money from Turkish or the white man or the Arab or the Lebanese. The Sikh community in Ghana came together and put their money and resources together. That's why they've been able to build that big Sikh Gurdwara in the heart of East Legon, one of the most affluent areas of Accra. Yeah, Sikh community got together and built a Sikh Gurdwara. That's what we got to do in Ghana. Yeah, that's what we call the cooperative model. Again, we need a situation whereby Ghanaians have the majority share in the key sectors of the Ghanaian economy. Yeah. So in the mining, we need to have majority stake in the mining sector, not just say. We need to own. Yeah, this is what I'm saying about the 50% royalty rate, because if we get that, that's game over. Because, like I said, every year in Ghana, roughly 4 million ounces of gold are mined a year in Ghana. Give or take, average is about 4 million a year. Times that by, let's say, $4,000 an ounce. That is $16 billion a year Ghana gets from gold. And we only get $400 million. Now just imagine if we got, out of that $16 billion, we got $5 billion, we got 50%. Forget 50%, let's say 50%. That's $5 billion every year for the next 10 years. Right? That $5 billion is nearly double what Ghana got from the IMF and World Bank. Yeah? To go and beg the white man to get $3 billion just to balance the books. Yeah? We could be earning $5 billion a year for the next 10 years, yeah, from gold royalty payments. Now, just imagine what that $5 billion can do. That can easily develop a national development bank, easily be invested in diaspora investment vehicles, like a diaspora investment bond, a diaspora, investment gold wealth fund. Yeah, that could easily be put into putting some seed money for a cooperative model. Yeah, that could easily be used to develop companies. Yeah, so it is important that Ghanaians have a majority stake in the key sectors of the economy: mining, telecommunications, retail. Because in India, Africans don't control the retail. Yeah, don't control the mining in India, the local mining they've got. Don't control the oil and gas that India have got. That's controlled by Indians. So why have we in Ghana, why have we allowed non-Ghanaians, yeah, Chinese, the white man, Lebanese, Indians, to control the key sectors of the economy? Why have we allowed that to happen? And without capital, there's no sovereignty. Without no sovereignty, there's no freedom. And there's no freedom, you're still a damn slave in your own country. This is what I've just mentioned, like the diaspora investment opportunities, the National Development Bank, the cooperative, having majority stake. It's about capital. It's about accumulating capital, finance, to be able to own your economy. Because, like I said, without capital, you ain't got no sovereignty. And without no sovereignty, you are still a slave. Again, what Ghana can do is to industrialize, like Nkrumah said, and add value. So, 3 examples: cocoa. So instead of exporting the raw chocolate to Cadbury's or wherever, and then we bring it back to Ghana and they say it back to us for triple the price that they bought it for, we could start using cocoa and make chocolate ourselves. Yeah, so we could have, many chocolate factories. Yeah, in Accra, in Kumasi, in Tama, in Takoradi, and develop chocolate products from cocoa, sell that to the outside world. Yeah, because our cocoa is the best in the world. So whether it's the West, whether it's in Asia, China, Japan, Australia, South America, all parts of the African continent, we could easily make more than $5 billion a year if we turn cocoa into added value goods like chocolate. Easily. $5 billion a year, easily. Again, gold. Yeah. So this is why, for me, I think Ghana got 15% share in so-called gold, this gold company, gold company that I've heard, over the last few weeks or so. Sammy Jensen making noise, Charanum, about this 50% stake. That's nothing, beloved. That's nothing. What you need to do is finish the gold factory at Prestea that Nkrumah started, and I think Kufuor now finished it. You need to finish that gold factory so that you produce gold ornaments and jewelry from that gold factory. But most importantly, you need to increase the royalties, because the 3% royalty rate is scandalous. It's absolutely outrageous and scandalous. We should be getting at least 30% royalty rate. That's when you're becoming sovereign. That's when you're becoming autonomy. That's when you're becoming a free people, by demanding more revenue from your natural resources. And that lithium contract, Ghana needs to revise that contract, because how can you take 10%? Lithium is a nuclear block. I know prices are down right now, but AI technology, the smart car, the smartphone, the AI generated software, the lithium batteries for electric cars, yeah, all this needs lithium, and lithium price will rebound, just like gold has rebounded since COVID, because before COVID, I think gold is about 2,500. It's doubled since COVID, so lithium price will rebound again, and we will gain if up the royalty rate that we get from lithium. So in terms of gold, Ghana should finish its own gold factory and make jewelry that we can export to the world. So rather than us, again in Ghana, sending the gold in its raw format to Tel Aviv, to Amsterdam, to London, and then they're making the rings and the diamonds and this and that, right, and saying back to us, right, we could have a gold factory, right, whereby we produce 24 karat gold jewelry, 24 karat gold ornament, 24 karat, diamond, necklaces, gold necklaces, right? And we can sell that to the outside world. Yeah. Again, bauxite. We should have a bauxite factory. Yeah. And we could use that to produce aluminium products. So again, all that I'm saying in terms of industrialization and adding value, that will create jobs in Ghana, that will lead to exportation of those goods, yeah, or that will add value, that will export those goods and create wealth for Ghana, bring much needed foreign currency to Ghana. And also we could use some of that currency to pay the Ghanaian worker a good, decent living wage. Because right now in Ghana, you ain't got a good, decent living wage. You got a slave wage. Yeah? So we could also oil. Oil. You know what products can come out of oil? Things like petrochemicals. So, we can use oil, right? So rather than, and this is why we need the oil refinery to work in Tama. This is why Nkrumah built the oil refinery to, refine our own oil. Why are we allowing others to refine oil when we've got an oil refinery that's idle in Tama? Why? So we could use the oil products, right, to also produce petrochemicals. And also timber, wood. Our timber, Ghana's timber is the richest. I think we've got something called rosewood. Rosewood is a very, very scarce, high quality wood that used to make top-notch furniture. Yeah, office furniture and top-notch furniture that you see in Buckingham Palace and government agencies in US, Italy, Germany, etc. We should be using that timber, not to cut it down. When you go to places like Asankraja and the Western region, right, chopping out timber and put it in, and people export it. Yeah, we should be having a timber factory whereby we use that timber to make top class, world class furniture that we can sell to the outside the world. Yeah, so these are ways in which we can industrialize and add value to our products, right, rather than export the raw material and then import the finished goods. So if this is how Malaysia, Vietnam, and South Korea escaped their dependency culture by industrializing and adding value to what they had in terms of raw materials. So again, solution. Ghana needs to strengthen its institutions. So we need independent regulators. We need a transparent procurement system because right now, the procurement system in Ghana leaves that to be desired because it is corrupt and it is not transparent. Again, we need to have anti-corruption enforcement because our corruption bodies right now is very, very low. And we also need a professional civil service that is not corruptible. Because right now, a lot of the civil service in Ghana are corruptible. You can corrupt them with a bribe, £200, $500, they'll do anything for you. We need a professional, highly skilled civil service that will ensure that Ghana gets its just desserts. Because institutions are the backbone of a free and sovereign people. Again, we need to build domestic champions. So Ghana needs its own Vodafone. There's no reason why Vodafone should be a Ghanaian. We should have many, many banks, not just Fidelity and Ghana Commercial Bank. We need to have many, many banks. We need to have Ghanaian manufacturers that manufacture things for the world market. Yeah. We need to also have Ghanaian-based, Ghanaian-owned, Ghanaian-managed tech firms, logistical companies, etc. A nation without national champions is a nation without leverage. Yeah. Also, as part of the solution, we need to raise wages and skills. So a living wage economy requires strong labor laws, skills development, productivity investment, and enforcement of standards. Low wages keep nations trapped. This is why many Ghanaians are wanting to leave Ghana because of the low wages and the bad working conditions that they're experiencing. So if we're to pay people at least double what they're getting now, many young people in Ghana will stay in Ghana, not wanting to risk it to go across the Sahara and end up in Libya or whatever and die trying to cross the Mediterranean to get to Europe. So we need a high wage economy in Ghana. Let me tell you what all the Ghanaians can do. So you Ghanaians, listen to me. Let me tell you what you can do. So buy Ghanaian. So rather than buy, Chinese, Lebanese, Indian products, right? Buy made in Ghana products. Yeah. Form cooperatives amongst the family members. Build community banks. Support Ghanaian brands. Rather than, for example, rice. So rather than buy this circle perfume rice, buy made in Ghana rice. That is even healthy for you, and it's got good nutrition value. Not this perfume white rice, which is junk rice. No health value at all. Yeah. So Ghanaians, you can invest in yourself in skills. Skill yourself. Improve your skill set. Not just get your degree or your master's, right? But invest in yourself. What qualities can you present to workforce? What skill set have you got in any job that you want to go for? If you want to be a lawyer or an accountant or a journalist or a tech entrepreneur, what skill sets do you have to enhance your employability or to enhance your capability in that area of endeavor? Yeah. A big thing that we need to do as Ghanaians is teach financial literacy, because Ghanaians are financial illiterate. The loan, bush them money is too much in Ghana. We need to start saving money, investing money, yeah, and then making that money work for us, right? And profit from that, yeah. So if we buy Ghanaian, shop Ghanaian, and don't buy foreign goods, right? You will soon see how Ghana will re-own its economy. Because every time you buy a foreign good, you're giving that person a job. So for example, anytime you buy perfume rice, where it's from China, India, Vietnam, US, right? You're giving that people job. You're not giving your Ghanaian farmer a job. You're giving the rice farmer in America, in China, in Vietnam, Pakistan, you give them job. So let's buy made in Ghana rice. Yeah? Keep the money in Ghana, support Ghanaian farmers. Economy, freedom, is built from the bottom up, not top down, but from the bottom up. So Ghanaians, Sisamusobang. Now, how to honor Nkrumah's legacy. So this part of independence is trying to honor Nkrumah's legacy. So Nkrumah fought for political independence, economic independence, Pan-African unity, industrialization of Ghana and the African continent, control of national resources. Nkrumah warned that political independence is meaningless unless it's linked with economic independence. Yeah? So to ensure that Nkrumah did not die in vain, Ghana must complete the economic revolution, because right now you are a slave in your own country. Yeah? Ghanaian leaders must prioritize sovereignty over foreign direct investment. Yeah? Because even so-called brands that you know in Ghana today, like Tata, Indian company, like Samsung, like Kia, Korean automobile company, right? These brands were family-owned brands, which got support from their respective governments. So Tata got help from the Indian government. Samsung got help from the South Korean government. The Kia car company, got help from the Korean government. So Ghana, we got to invest in our own people. Yeah, invest in our. Don't be envious. Invest in people like Parkwes Indom. That brother. That Ghan brother. Who owns Burger King Ghana, the franchise. Invest in people like that, because people like that will build wealth, create job, and the capital will stay in Ghana, not go outside of Ghana. Yeah. So, in closing, independence is not a holiday. It is a responsibility. And until Ghanaians understand that we need to control the land, the labor, the capital, and the value of their own national resources and their own nation, the struggle continues, and we are far from free. So on Independence Day, I hope you reflect, I hope you pause, I hope you understand that you are still a slave of your own country, and that the struggle for economic freedom and emancipation continues. And so this brings to an end this special edition of Ghana in Focus, Independent Special with Ghana in Focus, with myself, Kwame, Ghanaian writer, broadcaster, journalist, entrepreneur, podcaster. If you like what you hear, please share it to your friends, family, social media networks. Subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube. Subscribe to Ghana African Focus on Spotify. And also, please sign up for the Ghana Relocation Summit, particularly those of you in the diaspora. That will be taking place at the African Regional Hotel, Accra, on April 1, April 2. I'll leave the link to how to register for this important summit. All right, so next week's show, we're going to be talking about, I'll think about what we're talking about, so stay tuned for that. So for myself, Kwame, and from all the rest of the crew here on Ghana in Focus, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next edition of Ghana Africa in Focus.